The API offers a RSVP route that returns a list of events the user has registered for. You will use this route to fetch the data for the table. The first step would be setting up and configuring the events table. Shadcn UI offers an amazing data table component. Installing it requires two commands: adding the Shadcn UI table component through the Shadcn UI CLI, npx Shadcn UI at latest add table. The second one will be installing 10stack React table. So npm install -s 10stack/React table. You are now ready to create your first Shadcn UI table. You'd want to create the new Next.js route under /events. So create a new file in a new folder under the app folder called events and a page.tsx file. Now import the h3 component and import the registered event table, which we'll implement in this lesson. Then export default function events page, render a div with a class name of grid with full and gap 4, render an h3 component with a title of registered events, and render the registered events component. Now create a new registered event file. It can be collocated with the page component. And to create and structure the events table, you'll need a few things. The first one is implementing the data table component from Shadcn UI. The second is defining the table columns using 10stack, React table, and 10stack column definition. And then fetch the registered events list from the API and render the table using the data table component. Since you will create two tables that look and behave similarly, but have different data, you will build an events table component that you can reuse for both tables. Let's implement first the data table component from Shadcn UI. The Shadcn UI data table component is not installable from the CLI like other component, but it's a composition of React table with the Shadcn UI table component. So create a new file in component/data table and add the following code. You can copy and paste it from the text course below. I'm gonna copy and paste it as well. The data table component receives a columns prop, which defines the table structure and heading, and a data prop, which will specify the table rows. The component calls the useReact table hook to create a React table instance, to manage the table state, render the table, and enabling pagination, sorting, and user interaction. It then renders the table using the table components that we just installed, while calling the React table instance render function, like here and here, the getRow model rows, and row.getVisibleCells functions. Since the component receives a column array, you'll need to define the table columns in your table definition. Inside app/events table, add the following code. First, we're going to use the column definition, so import that from 10stack table. Then import the event type from type/events and import the data table component. Now let's create the columns, which are from the column def type with the event generic, and it's an array. And first add the accessor key, which defines how is the table going to access the column property, the column data on the event object. Here we want to have the title one, and then the header, which is the text or a component for the column header in the rendering part. The second accessor key will be the date. and a date header as well. And the last successor key is the location with the location header. Now create a new component called events table. It receives an array of events as a prop. And you should already be familiar with this pattern. And then it renders the data table component with the columns and the event. Columns equal columns, data equal events. The last step would be to fetch the user events and render them inside the registered events component. Define it as a use client component. Then import the useSWR hook. Import the RSVP type. We need to add it first. It includes an event from type event and a user ID, which is a string. Go back to the component. Then import the useUser hook from the user context and the events table that we've just created. Export const registered event. We are creating the component. Equal a function. We want to get the token from the useUser hook. Then we want to make a network request to the server. Let's type it. We are receiving an object with an RSVP property. Cut from the RSVP type. Then we are passing an array to useSWR because we want to pass the token as well from the component. And then we're going to create a new function that will take the URL, this one, and the token as an arguments and call the fetcher function. Missing a parenthesis. We also need to update the fetcher function to receive a token as a param, so it will be able to pass it in the headers as an authorization header property. So make the fetcher receive a token, and then if there is a token, pass an headers object, and if not, pass an undefined as the second argument of the fetch function. Then you can simply render the events table component with the events returned from the API. We want to pass only the event property and not the user ID property to the events table. And close the component. Run the app. If it's not running, feel free to send me a message on Discord, jump on the channel, or shoot an email, and we'll help you sort it out. Navigate to the application. Then navigate to the My Events page. We forgot to import the events table. We forgot to close the events table. And now you should see the events you have registered for. If you haven't registered to an event, feel free to go here, click on RSVP, confirm, and then going back to the My Events page, you're going to see your event added to the table.
If you want to keep learning about how to build real-world apps with the latest technologies and other career-related topics, then start right now by subscribing to our channel and liking this video.